everybody. It's Cortney Gill, your chaos controlling coordinator. And I am here today, super excited to have a conversation with Jennifer Smith of the South Texas Alliance for Orphans.
Yes.
You want to give us a quick introduction?
Yeah, I'm married to my husband for 26 years, 4 kids, 3, 1 out of college, 2 in, and a middle school boy, and run the South Texas Alliance for Orphans, founded it about 10 years ago, and we love the lake, and I don't know. That's
You
about
love
it.
long strolls at Target or
Oh,
Costco.
yeah. I spend a lot of money at Costco.
I've converted to Sam's because they do delivery so much better. And so I just have taken the leap over. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. So I love how our worlds collided. So I was on your BNI chapter about a year and a half ago, and then I ended up transitioning, but I had recognized your face from our church, from Heights, and then ended up Ken had invited me to do your gala last year, which was phenomenally done and so well put on. And I was like, you know what? I think it's time to get back in the nonprofit world again. I had done several years of that and taken a break during COVID. And so tell us a little bit about the organization. I love the mission.
Yeah. So long story short, about 20 years ago, I got introduced to the foster care space. I had no framework for it before. It was a newspaper article that I read about a girl's story who'd been abused and neglected, then placed in foster care, had a horrible experience in foster care, and now was aging out. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know this world existed. And frankly, it just pissed me off because I'm like, how is this? We live in America. Like, how is this the plight of kids? And so my husband and I started praying about it. Eventually, we end up finding ourselves in foster classes. This lady that's teaching us to be foster parents, she's agnostic, so we don't share the same faith. However, she looked more like Jesus than a lot of the Christians I knew. And so I started talking to her, and I was like, Linda, you should come to my church. You should tell them about what's going on. And she's like, oh, I've been to churches before. They don't show to my meetings. And I was like, oh. And that was like the gut punch that was like, you're right. I've never heard a sermon, a mission moment, anything about kids in foster care. And why? Because the Bible is super clear about this being on God's heart. Jesus modeled it. Like, there's no way that the church should not be about this. And so through that process, I started helping my church get involved. In our first meeting, pastor preached a sermon, our first little info meeting, and 100 people showed up. And I was like, okay, so it's really that
there's a lane. Yeah.
There's really that people are like me. It's not that the church didn't want to do anything in it. They just didn't know like me. They were like, oh, I mean, because the state had really run that program and basically given the church the Heisman.
Right.
And so once we opened their eyes, then that was the genesis of the Alliance into what we do today, which is help churches understand their crisis, find ways to get involved, Christian business leaders, families, individuals, all of that to serve along the full river, which is how do we keep kids from entering foster care? How do we serve the ones in it? And then how do we serve the youth that are spitting out the end who, the statistics for them are pretty deplorable.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was on the respite care board for 10 years. And I remember always thinking we were getting kids when they were already in the cycle. And I'm like, why? And I would watch every holiday. Kids would go back to their parents. The first trip back from a social worker would be no hot water, no power on a property. And then they were coming back to us and they would be out of rhythm, out of sync. We had worked so hard to kind of get them there. And I remember thinking, why don't we intervene when these parents are just right on? I'll never forget, we had a dad of 3. These kids had a very specific dietary restriction. And he was just right on that financial bubble. And he's like, I'm going to give my kids up because that's the best thing I can do for them because I just can't afford, like there was no abuse or neglect, but it was like, why aren't we stepping in before these kids end up in the system? And not just from the financial aspect of it, it's way more expensive to put kids in the system. It becomes a cycle.
Infinitely more expensive.
People don't realize the cycle. And it's like, if you can, I know it just sounds, everybody says break the cycle, but the reality is it really is breaking the cycle. So one of the things that fascinated me about the organization is you guys do try and come in, or we try and come in on the front end of things. And so walk me back a little further. Tell me, what were you doing career-wise before you decided to jump in and do this? Because I'm always fascinated. So many nonprofit CEOs did something so different beforehand. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in West Texas, went up to Texas Tech for undergrad, and then what brought me to San Antonio was grad school at the Health Science Center. I was a PT. So I was a physical therapist for years. Outpatient orthopedics, loved athletes. I played every sport with a ball growing up. And so that was my love. And I thought, that's what I'll do. I'll be a PT. I'll open clinics. My kids will go to daycare. And there's nothing wrong with that. I was just like, that was be my life. And then I got into working as a PT, San Antonio Orthopedic Group, and had my first daughter. And I was like, I don't want to go back to work full time. Never saw that coming for myself because I'm raised by a single mom, grew up in daycare, had to. And So then I ended up going to 3 days a week. And then I had my second daughter, went down to 2 days a week. And then that's kind of when foster care entered our world. And that kind of just wrecked everything in the best of ways. But I started, well, as we started fostering, I was still working as a PT, but I pivoted to home health, something I swore I'd never do. But anyways, it was a very flexible schedule because
Right.
when I was working outpatient orthopedics, I'd have a full schedule of patients, and then I'd have a sick kid or a court date, and I was having to hand them off to my coworkers, so that wasn't cool. But did home health for a while. But then when we got to like 4 to 6 kids, I was like, all done.
Yeah.
I'm all done with working as a PT. Kept my license for a while, but then that's when the Alliance started taking off, and I was finally just cut anchor and let my license go and full send CEO of a nonprofit.
So that's one of the things that, we talk about a lot in this podcast. And for me, that's so important is being a mom and a CEO. I feel like for years they've operated like they're either one or the other.
Yeah.
And obviously as a CEO, there's just a lot of flexibility with your job. And there's also not a lot of flexibility with your job. So tell me what it looked like when you were first transitioning over to the Alliance and you're like, okay, I've got all these responsibilities and ideas. And I think as a founder, it's your baby, right? So now you have another child. So you're like,
Exactly.
okay, how do I balance all this? So tell me, were there daily things that you did that you're like, okay, I can do all of this. This is how I'm going to get this accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, the beginning was just mass chaos because
Okay, we're trying to teach people how to control their chaos here.
But also, yeah, starting there. I mean, I think you have to start where you're at. Like I didn't go to school to become an executive. Like I saw myself probably running a PT clinic, but not a nonprofit, and definitely not staying at home. And actually, it was homeschooling my children, which was
girlfriend, you're my hero. Bingo card.
Bingo card at all. So
that will never be on my bingo card. I tried that during COVID and it lasted about 4 days.
Listen, I didn't think so either. So it was just this season of like when I had time, I did it. I there was no method, just madness mostly to it. But then and also I was just figuring out I'm naturally an entrepreneur, and I didn't know that then. Like, because
what was the light bulb moment of like, oh, I kind of like this entrepreneur thing?
Well, I think when I became a PT, I think the beginnings were probably when I became a PT, and I was like, this is what I want to be, and then I got into it, and all I could see was things I wanted to fix, and I'm like, I was never just content being in a role. I was always like, wait, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this, and then actually my church was really. Grace Point was incredible about building women leaders, which
awesome.
Most churches are not. And so as we're doing these personality tests and leadership development, I'm like, oh, wait, like this is where this fits. Like this feels right. So it was figuring out, okay, this is who I am. Yeah, I'm a mom and I want to be in that role. But also this fills my bucket too. I want to, build things, make things better. And then the Alliance came into my life. And so when I first started, it was just me. For probably 5 or 6 months. And then I got to hire my first employee. And then that's when I really...
Which is tremendous growth. Like if you really think about a trajectory of a nonprofit, to be able to bring on somebody that within the first 12 months is huge.
Yeah. And that's when I started learning, hire for your weaknesses. Don't fix them. Because I think in the beginning I was like, well, I just need to be... Because, most entrepreneurs, we suck at admin and organization. And so same here. And I was like, I had when Mel came onto my team, I gave her the stack of business cards with like notes in it. And I'm like, can you organize these? Like, this is what I have.
Yeah.
And so I think that was one of the big light bulbs was hire for your weaknesses. Don't try to get better at it because you can, but ultimately that's not the best use of your time. Be good at what you're good at. And I couldn't be the visionary, solve the system problems and still work spreadsheets and database and financials and all those. I mean, I didn't get a lot of that other stuff off my plate until almost recently, and it's good to know all the pieces, but I think that was realizing that my time had a dollar amount to it. And so if I could hire somebody to do the things that I'm not great at because it takes me longer to do them, I'm actually saving money for the organization and I'm saving my sanity at the same time.
Well, and one of the things I love about the organization is you do employ a lot of women part-time. So it gives them the opportunity to be a mom, be at home, but also have a job with a tremendous amount of meaning and impact. And, working our donor database is a huge impact. Like, it's not just about putting the phone number in, it's about a connection that we're going to make that hopefully will then open up other doors and have income. And so tell me, I know we've talked about this briefly as being one of your board members, how you have designed the part-time team. Because to me, that is a tough, you want good team members to feel like they have the flexibility, but you also know there's obligations. Right. So tell me how you've been able to structure that as a team.
Yeah. So my team right now, we have 12. 2 of us are full-time, me and a guy on my team, Mike, who does pastoral engagement. Everybody else is part-time, 15 to 20 hours. And even our operations, director of operations, which has been part of it was a small nonprofit. You just don't have that much money.
Right.
Like it was a necessity.
The benefits and everything else. Yeah.
And secondly, there is so many amazing women who have master's degrees and like just infinitely talented. And I was meeting them in the foster space because they were foster moms. Like they were running their CEO of their household. Like they were in
CEO, COO, CTO,
all of it,
all of it.
Uber driver, chef,
exactly.
Yes, all of it, counselor.
Yeah.
And so I meet these women, and Melanie is a perfect example. She came to me and she was staying at home with her kids, had like 5 kids under 10 or something at the time, and she's like, hey, and she's a teacher, has a master's degree in teaching. Wow. And she's like, I want a little extra income on the side. Is there anything I can do for you? I was like, absolutely. Yes. I stink at this. Go do this. So then she could we didn't have an office for 4 or 5 years. We just worked in coffee shops 1 day a week. And then I think the key, what is unique about the people that I hire is, one, they're passionate about what we're doing. They're highly skilled, but they want to have margin to be moms. Yeah. And so I can give them, at the Alliance, I don't micromanage. Even if I had like infinite amount of money, I can't, that's just not my personality.
Right.
And so I have to have high trust with these people. And I've hired some people who it just wasn't a good fit. They needed, like I hired a gentleman who was he's a great guy, but he was ex-military. He needed me to give him 10 steps and that's not the kind of leader I am. That was one of the things I had to learn. Like, I need to hire people who I can say, here's where we're going. Here's all the resources we have. Build the bridge. Yeah. And I'm here to help you. But if you're not asking me questions, I'm assuming you're rolling that way and we're doing great.
Yeah. And I'm assuming the bridge will be ready at this date and we're going to start driving on it.
This is supposed to be done at this point. And so that's one of the things, is just learning how to flesh out hiring that person. The benefit early on was I hired people I was friends with, so I already knew them. Now at this stage in it, we've come up with some different practices to try to flesh out, because you can teach a lot of skills, but you can't teach culture. And I need the people to fit in our culture of high ownership, high accountability, high passion for the field. Mm-hmm. And then I can teach you the things, we can teach you the things to do.
Yeah.
But those intangibles.
Did most of the team already, it sounded like you found a lot of them from the fostering space, because one of the things that I find is a lot of people don't know what they're passionate about. And I can't decide if it's because people are just so overwhelmed with day-to-day life that they can't figure out. Like when I interview, I'll ask people, like, if you could wave a magic wand, what would you do? And most people are like, yeah. So tell me, how did you figure out, like, okay, they need to be passionate about this? Like, did you have questions or did you just kind of like feel it? Because I think one of the things as you're growing a business is it is hard to kind of flesh out those people and those team members. Mm-hmm. And so was it just over the years now you've looked and been like, yeah, I can tell they have a passion for this?
I mean, I think you can see it. And like I said early on, it was friends. So I had done life with them. I had seen them, and they were advocates. They had their kids in their house that they were serving, but then they're advocates in their church. They were leading, there was volunteer roles that they were leading in at their church because they were passionate about that, in their schools, or they, we would meet and I'm hearing them talk about, this is a problem and I want to solve it. And majority of them are not necessarily visionaries that were going to be the ones to go and take the hill, right? But they wanted to be a part of something that was going to take the hill and whatever. And so when, we got to meet those people, I'm like, hey, well, come join the Alliance. Like, we're taking that hill, and that's a piece that we need to do it in. And you're passionate about it. You got some skills in it, and off we go. So I think finding those people is a lot of observation. Now, like I said, now we're hiring people that off of Indeed, and we're finding people that I have not done life with. And so we've started doing video ask, which is kind of our comms guy introduced us to that, but we have people, and we fleshed out a lot of people that probably would have looked good on paper. Mm-hmm. But we had them interview, and you get to see, you can read somebody pretty quick. And so
I feel like I can, but I told an employee the other day, I was like, well, just go meet with this vendor and see if you feel it. And they were like, what? And I'm like, oh, everybody doesn't have that like tummy feel like in the first 30 seconds.
Yeah, we had one who was like kicked back like this. And I'm like, if that's how you're doing an interview to want to be hired, you can't represent our organization. Yeah. And so that's been a tool that we've just deployed recently. That's because I'm trying, like I said, my team's part-time. So we got to be highly efficient
for sure
to keep everybody part-time. And so how can we make the interview, how can we vet people out so my ops team is not having to go through a million people that are applying. So this video asked, we're like, we had 5. We were like, none of them are we spending any time on.
Yeah.
Next round.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So I know that you guys have already grown by leaps and bounds. I'm super excited where I came in. Tell me what you're thinking about the future of the organization as the leader. I feel like that's a heavy lift, right? Because this feels like not only are you trying to solve for your organization and grow it, but you're trying to solve for a problem that has existed for as long as I can remember. And you're dealing with the state and legislators and all these other people along the way. So how do you balance? Because I always jokingly say, like, I'm a control freak, so I like being self-employed because, right, I'm in like control. But you're balancing running your team, growing an organization, still doing life. So how do you find, like, you're like me, let's go take that hill. And it's like, oh, but I've got all these blocks. So how do you break that down and stay motivated?
Yeah, it's a bit cliche, but it was something that I got early on when I remember we were fostering, and I was just getting so angry with the system and how broken it was and how much it wasn't serving the actual kids that it was supposed to be serving, and also like wrecking foster families and caseworkers and all the things. And Linda, the lady that taught us to be foster families, she's like, if you can only control what's in your home. And so I think that was kind of, I mean, it helped me in that season when I was mom, raising all these kids, but it also transitioned into being the Alliance. Like, I can control what I can control. So I can control, or not, on some level, I can build our organization to impact churches so that they know there's a crisis.
Mhm.
I can't make them jump in,
Right.
but I can control that. I can control that we have really great communication and clarity for people and next steps for them to be able to step in if and when they want to. We can have great training so that they're prepared for whatever they feel like they're going into. I can't control the system. I can't control legislation. I can't control judges and what they decide. But we can put supports around the families that are in it. I think that's been the main focus is what's the next right thing that I can control in the pursuit of this thing that is really a problem that's never going to get solved. And you have to make, just like we've all had to make peace with that until Jesus comes back. We are going to have abused and neglected kids, unfortunately. That doesn't mean we don't do anything, like the whole starfish thing, the boy walking on the shore throwing starfish back. And the old man was like, why are you doing that? You're not going to make a difference. There's thousands. He's like, well, fix it for that one.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's kind of the mantra of like, well, yeah, we can't solve it for all 3,000 that are in foster care today, but we can for the few hundred that we've gotten in great homes.
Well, and it's like the pond effect. If you can save one, or the rock effect on a pond, if you can save one, you're hoping that ripple effect will have. And one of the things I love is you have been able to embrace, like, maybe some, I don't want to call them older, but maybe wiser individuals who don't want to go adopt, a 4-month-old, but they're ready to come alongside a 20-year-old who maybe aged out of the system, never had experience. I mean, I remember talking to Ken and just basic things like going to the doctor, just stuff that they've never done on their own, or things that you just kind of take for granted that you think, how did that work? But at 18, it's like, here you go, you're out in society. And so I love that you guys have created multiple ways for people to engage. I think a lot of times people just jump in at the holidays and are like, oh, let me bring a toy to the drive. And it's like, no, there's exactly. And like, one of the things that y'all do also is, training people so that people don't realize when kids are in foster care, you can't just hire a care.com babysitter.
No.
Right. And so at respite care, we would offer parents night out. So if they were any of our kiddos, especially ours, because they were medically complex, they could drop them off, and you'd be amazed how much of a marriage and a family you can keep together if a parent can get 4 hours one night a week. We've had dinner, Costco, HEB, whatever that looks like.
Or we've had so many families, they're like, I haven't gone on a date in a year. We had one family that came to a church hosted a parents' night out, and we're like, they came back and they asked them, like, hey, what'd y'all do? They're like, we slept in the parking lot. They just got in their car and took a nap. Like they just, that's where, that's the part that's opened up in the Alliance as it's grown, is like, we need foster families, and we still do, but also we need people Lebanon caseworkers. We need people mentoring the youth that are aging out. We need people supporting grandma, inviting her to church and wrapping around her because she just took on 4 kids on a Social Security income and she's drowning. And so, there's so many different ways. And then business leaders, can get involved, and, like you've done with your business. Hey, I've got these extra things. Can you use these for kinship families? We're like, absolutely, we can use those. And, we had Las Palapas the other day who came and gave breakfast tacos to all the caseworkers. I mean, there's just so many little different ways that if everybody's just doing a little piece, then the whole big jacked up system doesn't fall on any one person's shoulders.
Well, Ken talked about, I want to say, if every church in San Antonio, or every third church in San Antonio, took on one kid in the foster system, we would solve the foster crisis here. And it was one of like those alarming, when I heard that, and I was like, what are we doing? Like, we're all so busy doing so much other stuff, and we're not getting back to basics of, and even if you can't directly bring that kid into your home, like, what are we doing? And so one of the things that I found really fascinating is, like, at Christmas, we didn't just do toys, like clothes. I mean, I remember being at respite care and it was like, do you know the volume of underwear and socks we went through as an organization? Because we would have 30 or 50 kids at any time between all of our shelters and locations. But you send that kiddo off and go back home with at least 5 or 7 days worth of clothes. And I mean, it multiplies on you. And so those little ways that people can get involved. I mean, I remember when I got on the respite board, I was on the board with the CEO of Whataburger, and I'm like, Bert, I don't belong here. Like, this is not, I don't have that kind of money. And he's like, no, you don't understand. We need people to be the hands and feet. Like, Tom can't be here on a Sunday helping on Easter and giving her care, but you can be. And so I encourage people to try and find their lane and not think that any small thing is too small or, that one outfit. It still makes that impact for that family that may be the only outfit for pajamas for 3 days or whatever that case may be. And so I'd like to kind of dig a little bit deeper. We were talking about your church came alongside you about being a woman leader, because the more and more I dig in this, and we talked about this the other day, like, only 30% of women are speakers on the national level. And I think that this has become more and more of a thing, that finding other strong women who want to be in a leadership role, but also want to honor and serve their family, their faith, all of the above. So how do you kind of juggle all of that? And tell me how Grace Point came along beside you.
I would say I grew up in, like I said, in Odessa, West Texas, Southern Baptist Church, and everyone on stage was in a suit and tie and a man. And women's two roles were you could work in the children's ministry or you could sing in the choir. That's all I saw in quote unquote leadership in the church. And I was like, well, I don't fit in either one of these buckets. So this is a problem.
How's your singing?
So it makes me sad, because I think churches are missing out on, in general, 50% of the leaders in their congregation, because the women are not being called into it. They're not being stewarded. That's one of the things we're doing at the Alliance right now, is we have this Design to Lead program where our ministry leaders, who are lay leaders in their church, we're pouring into them and saying, hey, here's your gifts and talents. Here's what you're naturally good at. Here's how you can steward those and grow those. Because that's what I got when I was at Grace Point. I got all the leadership stuff that was previously, I felt like, reserved for the men. And had I not, I don't know that I would be doing this right now, because I don't know that I would have felt like I had I remember thinking, like, God, you like messed up on me. Like, I'm probably, all of these things look great in a guy, but they don't look great in a woman. Like, they rub men the wrong way.
Yeah.
But a man could say the same thing I said, but I'm, the choice word, and he's not.
Yeah.
And so I think it took time to come to a place where I was like, no, this is who God made me to be. These are my gifts. These are my talents, not to be flaunted and be, ridiculous and arrogant and all that. But there is I need to find a way to use these. The Alliance, God brought the Alliance, so I got to use those. And then I think it was just figuring out, okay, how can I do the things I need to do as a mom and do the things I need to do as the leader of the Alliance? And I don't think the word balance exists. Like, I don't think that exists. It just means some weeks I'm more mom, and some weeks I'm more CEO of of the Alliance, and some weeks I'm, it's mixed. But like, even this year, I work full time, but my 3 college girls came home, and so first half of January, I didn't work 40 hours a week because my girls were home, and I'm going to spend time with them. But that means these past 2 weeks, I've worked
60,
all evenings and weekends, and it's been longer. So I think that's a burden that the world puts on women, of like, you have to have balance and you have to kill it at all the things. No, it's not even possible.
Yeah. I always think when I hear balance, I'm like, I feel like I'm standing on a Bosu ball, like trying to do, or lately it's been the vibration plate with the red light mask on, lifting weights and listening to a podcast in my ear. And it's like, is that really what balance is?
Yeah.
And I think my new word has been more of like alignment. Is that what aligns with what I have as a value or what I feel like is on my heart?
And I think it goes that you have to just be present where you're at. So I try to be, if I'm with my kids, I need to be with my kids. If I'm at work, I try to be at work. And when you're, not that I own the nonprofit, but when you're in business for yourself, there's no 8 to 5.
Yeah.
Like, you don't check out, you don't punch out of being the leader of your organization, and you don't punch into being mom.
Right.
And so you do have to find those pockets of so even setting up rhythm. So I started doing, when I go home at 4 or 5 o'clock, when my son gets home from school, I change clothes, change into something else. So then it's like, okay, I'm in this new mode now when I, get up, I try to get out of the house. Some days I work at the house if all the kids are gone, but I have very strict morning rhythms because that just sets my whole day up
Tell
for
us
success.
about that. I'm a big morning, winning
Listen,
the
I
morning.
know people are hating on morning people, but Cortney and I are morning people, and we'll
bring
preach
it on, sister. Tell
That's
me
right.
what your morning routine is.
So I get up at 5. I get some hot coffee or matcha. I sit down and do my Bible study. I go change clothes. We have a little space to work out at home because that's faster than I'm going anywhere. So I work out because if me on not working out is just not good for anyone.
Agreed.
And it's not about losing weight. It's just mental health.
Oh, for sure.
I just need to feel good. And so I work out and then I shower, take my son to school, and then hit my day. And then I'm blessed because my mom lives next door to us and she picks up my son. And so if I have a meeting that runs late, but I'm usually home 4 or 5-ish, help him whatever he needs for homework. But yeah, that morning routine is like, if I don't get to do that. And then the other thing is I don't work out every day because now I'm 48 and the body just does not handle that as much anymore. But, I have a day of rest, and Thursdays in general is my fasting days. Like that has become a rhythm that I just have to fast from not only from food as like a biblical fast, but like no podcasts, no music, no social media.
Yeah.
And it just gives my brain a chance to just like
decompress.
And I finally get to hear my thoughts again, because I think we're all in this okay, we're going to be in the car. So now you got windshield time. So plug in the podcast because you got to learn something. And then you're on the phone and then you're in front of your computer. And your brain is like, hello, are we ever going to give me a chance to just catch my breath? And
I was at an event a couple weeks ago, Buffini, and Henry Cloud, who wrote Boundaries, was talking about why do you think most of your best ideas come in the shower? And it's because
you're unplugged.
There's nothing else you really can do in the shower. I mean, you can play music, but at the end of the day, you're just kind of in the shower. Mm-hmm. And so that's when your brain gets a chance to actually do and think and all of that. And so, everybody's hating on the morning people. I've tried not being a morning person and it just doesn't work. If I don't get up in front of all of my friends that are women running businesses, they all say if I don't get up in front of my kids, and even if their kids are grown out of the house, if you can win the morning, like for me, I'm a big personal note writer. So if I can win the day and have 5 notes out the door, worked out, although I've tried to add, the vibration plate, dry brushing, all the other things, I'm like, at the end of the day, if I can work out and write 5 notes, I've won the day. So no matter what else happens, I feel like that's what got accomplished today.
But there's science to that. And I don't know if you've read Atomic Habits. I mean, and habit stacking and, all the things that kind of help it. So, because ultimately, if you can free your brain up to think about other things too, because it's just a habit. I don't think about it. I get up, I do my Bible study, I go work out like that. It didn't require any of me to go, what am I going to do this morning? It was just, this is what I do every morning. And so then my brain can keep running and downloading and thinking. And then I remember when my kids were at home, I would have such decision fatigue by the end of the day because you have all these little humans asking you for things and yes and no. Now they're all older, but
they still ask for things.
They do. But part of that is simplifying. And, like Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, they wear the same shirt, the same pair of pants every day because you cannot function at a high level. And I think women are at a disadvantage because we got to freaking do our hair, put makeup on, we can't wear jeans and a black t-shirt every day.
Yeah. Although Mel Robbins has kind of I've seen her speak a couple times and I've noticed that's become her thing. And I'm like, you keep going, sister, because if you can push that
lead
through,
out, please.
Yes, I would love to change the way that looks. Well, as we both know, we're in our sneakers most of the time. I'm trying to wear heels more strictly for calf development and work, kind of quasi working out when you walk. But no, I hear you.
I look like a baby giraffe, so that's just not a good idea.
But you and me both.
Yeah, that's part of the learning as I've gotten older is, okay, how can I make what I need to do easier? And part of that is really, growing up, it was like, oh, make your goals, set your goals, which, strategic goals are great. But if you don't have the habits to get you there, then once whatever you get to that goal, then you just basically start over because you were just rushing to get to a goal, but you didn't really build an identity and a habit behind it.
Yeah.
And that's what I've tried to do is find, okay, how can I, because I again, listened to some podcasts and they were like, well, flossing is linked to decreased risk of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. I'm like, great. So now I'm habit stacking flossing.
Yes.
But so now it's just become a thing I do when I, go to the bathroom and brush my teeth. Now I have, anyways, it's just those
it's
little
like making your bed.
Yeah.
It's just all of that
I
stuff.
make my bed. I never used to make my bed. I thought I was stupid. I'm like, I'm just going to get back in it at night. Why make my bed?
Yeah.
But now I'm like, it feels calming. I'm like, I accomplished something before everybody else in my house got up. And your point, I need to be I need to not talk to humans before they wake up, and I am not a good mom when they wake me up, and I have to immediately jump into
Yeah.
being somebody.
Or for me, like getting that one load of laundry and the dishwasher emptied or whatever,
Yeah.
it looks like, so that the day starts on a clean slate. So I know we're running a little low on time, but I definitely want to hit two other things. You talked to me about that you were raised by a single mom.
Yeah.
Super fascinating. Tell me what 3 things that help build your character from that.
Hard work, sacrifice, and let's see, what else? I don't know, just showing up. Like, I think, my mom, uh, ended up divorced, several times actually, and we struggled financially, but, I needed braces, and we went and cleaned her office, and we had the money to buy braces. But then I also lived in this other world because my dad's side of the family, my grandmother was very wealthy.
Oh, wow.
And so I would go and travel to London and New York. And so the I think that, and it has helped me to this day, even in foster care, because I can go sit and you're falling down, like the kinship families that for grandparents for one of our kids, I can go sit in that living room of this house on the south side in a, not great neighborhood, and I can be just as comfortable as I can when I go to the house in the Dominion.
Yeah.
Because I grew up in these 2 different worlds of seeing my mom work hard, sacrifice, show up at all my things, even though I'm sure it was a pain to keep asking off for work to come to my things. She always was there. And then I had, my grandmother who got to show me the world, and I built that sense of, curiosity in the world and different cultures and how. So it was really, you look back and you're like, oh, it was hard, but it was great to have both of those sides to the coin.
Yeah. No, I mean, I talk about a lot with women is just plan, work, and then grit. You just got to push through. I mean, I have a little group of not group, but some friends that we call each other our board of directors. And I'm like, we're just the grit girls because we just keep pushing and keep showing up, because I feel like a lot of times, especially when you're running a business or asking for business, it's just to keep showing up. One of the things I genuinely loved about you is you were like, oh, I just went and asked for the money. Like, I didn't even know the difference. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to do it in this order. And so I love that you just push through and you don't care. It's just like, this is what feels right. This is what I'm going to go do because this is what needs to be done for the organization. So, well, tell me, what are the current books you're reading or things that you're into that you're loving?
So Habits of the Household is a really good book. It's more built for it's not necessarily for my season of parenting. It's more like if you had younger kids in the home, but it talks, he quotes a lot of James Clear stuff too. It's Justin Early, I think is his name, but it's about how do you set almost like some liturgies in your home as far as like when they go to bed, he has this certain things that he says over his kids and they repeat them back. So like in the non-Christian space, daily affirmations kind of things. And how he redeems different moments, even in the chaos of, and also, he has 3 boys and they're, crazy wild boys. And how do you parent without losing it? And talks a lot about, habits that he's had to employ. He's a high powered attorney, and how he's had to, I think what is Matt Chandler calls it, second shift when he comes home. He's like, I had to learn that when I came home, I couldn't just come home and chill out because my wife's been surviving these 3 boys all day, and I have a second shift. And so talking about just taking ownership of that as a dad. But the rhythms in their home of dinner time and highs and lows and praying and how they say sorry and things. It just was a great book that like put a lot of things together that, we kind of muddled through when I was raising my girls. But I think it's a great book for anybody that has younger kids that's trying to figure out like, how can I build some simple habits that will have lasting impacts, down the line.
Yeah. Cool. If you could give our viewers who are thinking about either starting a nonprofit or starting a business 3 tips or tricks, what would you recommend?
Man, the thing that helped me the most was the people that was around me. When I went to pitch to the First Presbyterian Missions Board about what I was doing, because they wanted to see if it could be a nonprofit, that was the beauty. They were like, what do you need? I was like, well, wisdom and money.
Yeah.
And, obviously money, a lot of people can give to that, but it was more the wisdom of people who had already gone before me, like Bob Dugas, Carl Caton. They opened the door to Harvey Najum, Tullis Wells, and I get money that I had no business getting early on in the year. So, that whole your network is your net worth. I mean, for your business, it is too. Having key relationships is huge. And then not as a woman, I think we almost like apologize for asking for things. Men don't have trouble. It's in general, men don't have trouble with this. And so I think I've really pushed on my girls because they're older now, and I'm like, don't be afraid to go in and ask, like when they're talking salary negotiations and stuff in this phase of their life. But I think that's part of it is don't be afraid to go ask and just be confident in it. And it's okay to get a no.
Right.
Just
But
when you
make
get
the
that
ask.
no, yeah.
No, there are some
You're
statistic
already
out.
giving them a no. If you don't ask, the answer is no.
Right. When
So
there's a
might as
statistic about women making so much less in the workplace because we don't even ask for it. Right.
no,
And
they'll just take less.
Yeah.
I mean, churches are literally run because women will do it for free. If women stopped doing what they were doing, most churches would crumble.
oh yeah, no, it's too very ironic to me of how all of that kind of tumbles down. And I'm like, come on, ladies, we're like,
Yeah.
we all put our pants on one leg at a time. Everybody's,
Yes.
up here in my world, and I believe that that's God's love, is we are all the same. And so,
And then the last thing would just be you have got to get up early and you have to have a habit stack in the mornings to get yourself going and just win the day.
yeah, no, people always ask me, how'd you get here? And I'm like, a lot of consistency and a lot
Yeah.
of seeds that just got sown over many, many years, and the harvest has come now, but was years and years of nonstop hard work. And I think one of the things talking about your village is when I was starting out, I was a single mom with 2 kids. And so Valentine's Day was a perfect example of how I could love on my village. So all my friends were married, and I'm like, hey, come drop off your kid. I'll watch your kid on Valentine's Day. And so I'd have like a group of 20 kids in the room. And then when I needed a favor and I needed to go show on a weekend, I'm like, remember when I watched your kid for free on Valentine's Day? I need to go show a house. Can I drop my kids off with you? And so really developing that network that now has led to friendships that have been, 20 plus years in the making, that you remember those points and things where you can love on somebody, even if you're in a struggling season of life, and that they will remember those things. And so,
well, that's my oldest daughter is a real estate agent up in Lubbock. And I told her, I'm like, you can't be successful from your couch.
Yeah.
And I think, we can blame COVID, but I think we got really comfortable with being alone.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing the impact of it with mental health, but it's almost like we forgot how to hang out with people.
Yeah.
We
for
forgot
sure.
how to invite people over. We forgot how to entertain without some big, to do, and just have people over for pizza and football.
No, for sure. We've been trying to do a better habit this year of just like inviting people, hey, you want to go grab, quick drink or coffee or whatever, and connecting with like Richard Gavas. So just like genuinely good human beings where I'm like, I think if we each exchange a nugget at the end of the year, you'll have a gold mine.
Yeah, not coming with any agenda. Just
for sure.
I just want to get to know you, hear your story. I think for some, like this has substituted for that. I mean, we'll just listen to them and we think we know them, but we haven't actually sat across a table and really had a relationship exchange.
For sure. Well, last thing, if people want to get involved with the Alliance, tell them what's the best way to do that.
Yeah. So 2 ways. You can go Alliance, 4 orphans.org. That's
and
our
we'll
website.
Put that on the bottom. Yeah.
And we have a new podcast out. So it's called Running Toward. It's just a collection of amazing men and women that I know from the foster space who have fostered, adopted, or done kinship. And you just get to hear the crazy stories like mine of like, I was going this way and then the Lord pivoted me this way and then down the whole trail. So we would love for you guys to hop on, like it, follow it, and listen.
Fabulous. Well, thank you again so much for your time. And I love being a part of the board. And we're going to be having an amazing event in September. I'm super excited. More info to come. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Controlling Your Chaos, where we're here to help moms become CEOs and everybody live their best life. Thanks, everybody.